Hello. Today we're going to talk about how to do basic things on the euphonium. We're going to talk about assembly, basic maintenance, tone production, your first few notes, and finally disassembly on this instrument. The first thing that you want to do on your euphonium is take it out of the case. Now there is a right and a wrong way to do this. The euphonium is a rather large instrument, especially if we're talking about beginning band players. What you want to make sure to do when you're taking the euphonium out of the case is you want to make sure that it is on the ground in a secure place. You don't want to try and do this on top of a chair or any type of elevated surface because the likelihood is that the euphonium will get knocked off that surface and you could damage your instrument. So with the case firmly on the ground, you want to make sure that you have it situated so that your latches open upward like this. This ensures that when you open the lid, the euphonium will be sitting in the bottom and won't be falling out of the top. It's very important because if the euphonium does fall out of the top routinely because you're opening the case wrong, you could again dent your instrument, which will harm its tone production. As far as assembly goes on the euphonium, as you can see, there isn't a whole lot to do. You've got the euphonium, the actual horn, and you should have a mouthpiece here. What you want to do when you take the euphonium out of your case before you put it together is pick it up by the base of the bell and this large pipe here. You don't want to pick it up by any of the small pipes, otherwise you could damage it. Picking it up like this and taking it out. Now that we have our euphonium out of our case, it's time to put the mouthpiece into the horn. You want to securely cradle your horn like this and grab your mouthpiece by your thumb on the bottom with your index finger and ring finger on the top. You're going to want to do it like this. It'll make it a lot easier to put in. You want to gently insert it into the lead pipe of your instrument. That's this small pipe here. And you're going to very gently put it in and give it a very slight turn. You don't want to put too much pressure on this and you don't want to turn it too much or your mouthpiece could get stuck. And then you'll have to have your band instrument or a repairman remove it. Once again, you're going to put it in like this and just a very slight turn. When talking about basic maintenance of your euphonium, one of the most important things to discuss is how to oil the valves. This can be a bit tricky, especially if you're a beginning band player. The most important thing to remember when you're oiling your valves is to only take one valve out at a time. The valves do have to go back in the specific order that they are placed because, as you'll see here in a minute, there are holes in the valves that line up with the pipes of your instrument. If you put the wrong valve in, those holes won't line up, and when you blow through your instrument, the air won't pass all the way through the horn and you won't get any sound. The first thing you want to do is unscrew this top portion. We call that the valve casing. You're going to screw it counterclockwise until it comes loose, and then very gently you're going to lift the valve out of the horn, out of the valve casing. So while you're doing this, you want to put your euphonium back in its case, making sure that the mouthpiece is not still attached because you don't want to dent that. You want to make sure it's in a secure location so that as you're oiling your valve, nothing happens to the horn. You want to take some valve oil like this. This is a synthetic valve oil light from Yamaha. You're going to want to take this valve oil and take the spigot and put a few drops of it onto the valve, just like that. And then you can kind of use your fingers to spread it over the valve. Make sure the major surfaces of the valve are coated. You're going to put the valve back in the valve casing that's open. This should be very apparent because you've only taken one valve out. The major concern when putting the valve back in is to make sure that you're putting it in the right direction. There is a handy little valve guide right here, a raised portion on your valve that will match up with a recess in the valve casing. This will tell you which way to put the valve in. If you don't put the valve in the right direction, like I said, the holes will not line up and your instrument won't play. So you want to put the valve back in and make sure the valve guide is lined up with that recess right there. And you want to put it in very gently. You don't want to break or dent that valve guide or it will make it very, very difficult to get your valves back in your instrument. Then you're going to screw clockwise on that ring, the top of the valve casing that we talked about, to re-secure your valve. And now your valve should be nice and lubricated and should move really easily when you. Excellent tone production is a constant quest of brass players. It's something that no one should ever stop thinking about. There are two major components of it, your breath and your embouchure. We're going to start talking about your embouchure. A brass plain embouchure is something like It's going to be a little tighter for higher brass instruments, but since we're on the euphonium, which is a low brass instrument, it's going to be a little bit more open. You're going to say the syllable like you're humming. The thing to consider is the corners of your mouth. You don't want them back in a smile. You want them in front and firm. So not but You see the difference? The other thing that you want to consider is the spacing inside of your mouth. Believe it or not, your mouth is actually part of your instrument. As air comes up through your body and you blow it into the horn, interference in the mouth will change the way the air enters your instrument and affect tone production. Also, because the sound is coming from your instrument, some of that sound will register inside of your mouth. And if your mouth is closed off, it's going to change the way that the sound is perceived. You want to make sure that you're not clenching your jaw. Your back molars should not be touching. Tension is the enemy. You want to go not making sure that your jaw is relaxed and that you have space inside your mouth. One way that you can think of this is think about having a Hershey's Kiss on your tongue. If the top of the Hershey's Kiss, the point, would be touching the roof of your mouth, or if you would be smashing the Hershey's Kiss, then it would be an issue. You would need more space in your arm. We're going to move on to breathing now. There are many things that your breath affects. It can affect the dynamics and the pitch, and it can also affect the resonance. What we want to think about when we're starting basic tone production on the instrument is making sure that our articulation and our breath happen at the same time. You don't want to blow air through your instrument first, like, and you don't want to start out with too much articulation, because then you'll get an explosive sound like that, and it'll blast out of your instrument. So, what we're looking for is a coordinated effort. That's the kind of tone production you're aiming for, and if you keep in mind your embouchure, proper air support, and proper spacing, you'll get there. Now that we've established proper tone production, let's talk about your first few notes. Today we're going to learn F, E, and E flat. That was F, E, and E flat. These are some common notes that you use in beginning band music because the F is usually the first note that students will play. It sounds like this because it's completely open. Next, we're going to move on to E, which is just your second valve. And finally, E flat, which is just your first valve. In order, they would sound like this. There you have it, your first three notes on the euphonium. The final thing we have to talk about is disassembly, which, like assembly, is quite simple. You want to cradle your horn in your arm securely and grasp your mouthpiece the way we talked about before. You should grasp it by the shank, which is the straight part of it, by your thumb, your index finger, and your ring finger. Now, gently twist and then pull the mouthpiece out. If it's stuck, you should ask your band director for help. Do not try and pound it out of your instrument, and do not pull on it if it gives a lot of tension. You should ask someone for help to avoid damaging your instrument. When putting it back in the case, you're going to want to make sure your case is once again on a flat, stable surface so that it doesn't tip over. I'm going to start by putting the mouthpiece here in the slot, like that. There should be a slot for your mouthpiece, or you should have a mouthpiece casing because you don't want your mouthpiece loose banging into your instrument when you're carrying it around. The next thing to do is to take your horn and very gently put it back in your casing. Once again, remembering not to hold it by any of these small and fragile pipes. And it should sit nicely in your instrument case like this. Then all you have to do is close the lid and make sure that you hit all of the latches. Make sure that you close all of them. Otherwise, you'll get an unwelcome surprise when you go to pick your instrument case up.